Well, people, just back from advanced screening of Transformers 1, right? This is the new animated feature directed by Josh Cooley. It was written by Eric Pearson, Andrew Barrer, and Gabriel Ferrari. Barrer and Ferrari came up with the actual story for this. The film is produced by Mark Varadian, Don Murphy. Don Murphy, Lorenzo Di Bonaventura, Tom DeSanto, Aaron Dern, and Michael Bay. It's executive produced by Oliver Dumont, BJ Farmer, Bradley J. Fisher, Zev Foreman, Greg Moradian, Matt Quigg, and Steven Spielberg. Brian Tyler took care of the music. Christopher Batty was on cinematography. Lynn Hobson edits the piece, with Mary Hidalgo taking care of casting. Jason William Shearer was production design. Art direction is Gerald De Jesus. Art, right? We've got Delano Afias, Amy Beth Christiansen, Joshua Cords, Adam J. Ely, Ben Grandieu, Hussein Nabel, Dean Roberts, Bobby Rubio, and Josh Tonsion. Our voice cast. Chris Hemsworth is Orion Pax, aka Optimus Prime. Brian Tyree Henry is D16, aka Megatron. Scarlett Johansson is Alita 1. Keegan-Michael Key is B127, aka Bumblebee, though they don't use the name in the film. Steve Buscemi is Starscream. Lawrence Fishburne is Alpha Trion. John Hamm is Sentinel Prime. Vanessa Liguri is Erichinid. John Bailey is Soundwave. Jason Canupus Alvarez is Shockwave. Evan Michael Lee is Jazz. James Remar is Zeta Prime. Isaac C. Singleton Jr. is Darkwing. Steve Bloom is the announcer bot. Ginny Chong is Chromia and RC. Josh Cooley was the control room guys, PA system, and Skywarp. Dylan Bryan and Misty Lee also added their voices to the mix. Right, so this is the untold origin story of Optimus Prime and Megatron, better known as sworn enemies, but who once were friends, bonded like brothers, who changed the fate of Cybertron forever. So this, right, was birthed out of a writer's room. You know, I think it was back in 2014, Age of Extinction, horrible film. The bosses decided, you know what? Let's create a joined up universe. You know what I mean? Because look, everyone had seen how well Marvel was doing and, you know, other things like that. So it was just like, yeah, let's, you know, Paramount, they also I think that was around about the time they did it for Star Trek as well. So it's all about trying to connect things better, create, Bibles so you're not messing up the history and the legacy and all of that. So they create this writer's room. And out of it, right, Barrer and Ferrari came up with this story for a prequel. I mean, the thing is, right, it's not a new story, and I kind of think we could have done better, because we've done the whole thing of they were once friends and now they're enemies, right? Like, look, Marvel had done it years ago, back in the 60s. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby with Xavier and Magneto, right? Like, it's been a thing. There's Batman characters, friends, and like, it's not new. So they had the opportunity to really, do something crazy, do something real interesting. But this is what they did, which is fine, right? You can still tell good stories. You can still do something with it. And from out the gate, I probably should say this was not for me. This was not for me at all. Yeah, like the issue, the one of the issues I had was everyone's character was kind of the same, right? They were all wisecracking, sassy, you know what I mean? Like rambunctious, right? There was no difference. It was that Dawson's Creek thing where everyone talks the same, acts the same, is the same, essentially. And I just wish we had more diverse characters. That would have been great. That would have been really interesting. Also, the transformation of Megatron was pretty quick. And it could have been more nuanced, right? Could have been more nuanced. It could have been really seeded intricately, where it's not so transparent of, now it's this, right? I think that could have been, and that would have been really good, because, we've seen the way power and trauma can shape people. So, you could have done that, right? PTSD, like there's so many different things we could have done. So many things. Also, now, don't get me wrong. I think the voice cast was good. I'm just a little bit like Brian Tyree Henry is Megatron. I think it would have been more interesting if you'd made Chris Hemsworth Megatron. Right? Because reading books and stories, like, it's always the villain is dark, right? The villain is black. So having Brian Tyree Henry voice the bad guy, it's just kind of going into that boring whole trope of black being bad, And I'm not saying it's this racist agenda Transformers are trying to do, though there was in the second one the racist bots, right? So Transformers has got a history of being tone deaf, but I'm just like, it would have been more interesting. That's all I'm saying about that. I did like, the animators did a great job, but I found the issue, and it might just be me and my whack eyesight, right? But I found the issue that I had with the live action films, that when you get a load of robots fighting, because they're all essentially the same color and it's very similar, it's hard to distinguish who the fuck is who. You know? That was a big thing. It's just like, wait, what's going on here? You know? Like, you could probably pretty much suss out this whole storyline, right? You could. It was kind of transparent on the twists, the turns, where it was all gonna go. But then there was these other things. Like, there were animals, right? So there's robot animals. So are they beasts? Beastrons? I forget what the fuck the beast ones are called. But are they those? Right? Like there's these things that aren't very clear. Like, huh? And when you have the, Transformers transforming, there was no kind of thing on why, right? Why do people turn into the vehicle they turn into? That could have been a real interesting, facet to add to the story. Like, this is why. Because have you noticed, essentially, the Autobots are mainly kind of cars, and the Decepticons were a lot of flying things. That's what they were in the cartoons, right? So it's just like, what's the reason with that? And we've also got, Megatron and Prime are young. Everyone's young. And you're just like, but they're robots. Robots don't age. Like, they can rust, don't wear and tear. So it would have been good. And we do see it in part with the cogs, right? With the changes to the makeup. And I think that's the thing. You don't make them young. It's just they customize, right? That would be the thing. They customize. That's the change. That's the growth, right? With more knowledge, they're adding new parts, right? So they're bigger and shape changes. That, rather than young robots, because they're not human. But it's that thing of superimposing human traits onto Transformers. And it's the thing that always bugs me. Because, they're all humanized. Like, having male and female is weird, right? Doesn't make any, because they don't have sex. So why would there be male and female, right? It would just be robot. You know what I mean? Like, Transformers essentially are non-binary. If you think about it, man. You know what I mean? Like, there should be no sex with a Transformer. What are we doing? I did notice there was a little throw out of the GoBot term, which is interesting. Because back in the day, they were two separate entities, but then in the end, Hasbro bought out the company that owned GoBots. So then GoBots fell under them. That's because there was separate cartoons back in the day, but GoBots were always seen as the inferior brand, as it were. But look, just because this doesn't work for me doesn't mean it won't work for anyone else. Because essentially, I didn't really love many of the Transformer films, right? The first one was fun. It's that nostalgia. And I thought Bumblebee was good, but the Beast Wars, Age of Extinction, like, I can't even remember the names of all of them. Like, the King Arthur, they're terrible. They're terrible. So I didn't enjoy those. But I would say, if you liked the last one, the Beast Wars one, I think you would like this. you know? Yeah, I think if you enjoyed those other stuff, because it's essentially the same, you know, like as I said, look, the put human traits on robots, right? Just all of that. That's what this is. So if you really enjoyed the previous films, then the animated one will work for you, you know? Because all the things that bugged me were things that bugged me about the actual films themselves, right? So, yeah. Transformers, right? It's not Transformers the movie. Oh, and that was a great cartoon. As a kid, I loved that. True say, I have not watched it in over 20 years. So maybe if I watched it now, maybe I'm like, what the fuck is this? But in my head, this doesn't hold a candle to the other one. But I may be wrong. But people, now I did hear this is meant to be the first part of a trilogy, which, you know, because there was a load of stuff that is not answered in this, so that would make sense. But yeah, Transformers 1 is out in the UK this Friday. I know it's already out stateside, but people, let me know what you think, right? Did this work for you? Did you think it's better as a cartoon, or do you prefer the live action? What's the dealio, people? What's the dealio? Alright, Transformers 1.